Welcome back, everybody. This is the Everyday Hero Show, where I bring to you someone in your life or someone in my life that brings us joy and happiness and all good things, but does not get the credit that they deserve. We have Nina on today. Nina, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
And I'm excited. Thank you for asking.
So it took me a little bit to ask someone at work. Number one, because I haven't done this in a while, and number two, I'm a new person. I'm a traveler, right? So I feel like I'm not part of the crew. But you guys are great. I really like working where I'm working. It's a great team. You guys have a good thing going on.
That's good to hear.
And I really do feel that it comes from the charge nurses. And it's very different. And I don't know if you have worked anywhere else. Have you worked at another hospital before?
I haven't.
This is the only hospital you've worked at? There's probably a reason why you've stayed. How long have you been?
There are a few reasons. I've been there for 13 years.
13 years. That's a long time.
It is a long time.
That's all your entire nursing career?
That's it.
Oh, wow.
I know. I don't want to say it's embarrassing, but a little bit.
No, it's not. It's a good place.
It is a good place.
Yeah.
And I used to tell my patients a lot that I drive by 4 hospitals at least on the way to work.
You really do.
I could walk to a hospital from where I work. And I think the biggest reason has been that I like my coworkers. I like the culture.
It's very visible. It's very visible. But I do want to just pump the brakes here and rewind, because I want to get to know Nina first before we start talking about the nitty gritty. So Nina, please, who are you? Where are you from? And why nursing?
Okay. Well, I think it's easier to start from where I'm from. I was born in Austin.
Okay. Local.
Yes. And I say I grew up here, but when I was 6, my parents moved out to some land in Bastrop County, which is where my grandfather was born and grew up. Oh, wow. And so they kind of wanted to be off the grid. So I was born, in the late 70s. And they, so early 80s, they want to be off the grid. They wanted goats. They wanted chickens. They wanted they just wanted to check out.
The country life.
Yeah. And so, my dad moved to his dad's place. There was an old farmhouse there. It's probably 100 years old by now. So spent, life there. But the closest town or city really was Austin. So my dad was employed in Austin. My mom stayed home with us. But if we had to get groceries, we drove to Austin. If we
okay.
Yeah.
That's lovely. I think everyone does that, because I always tell people I'm from Boston, but I'm from a town outside of Boston.
Right.
And Boston was a place that we went to, when you wanted to do some activities. But when you say you grew up, was it really farm, or was it like a suburb?
Oh, no, it's like 200 acres of nothing.
Oh, Jesus, Lord mercy.
Oh, yeah. There were cows and horses. I can't say it's a farm because, we didn't do anything agriculturally. We didn't grow anything.
Okay. So who took care of the cows? They just were grazing?
Pretty much.
That's amazing.
In 200 acres, you have 60 cows. They kind of take care of themselves. There's once or twice a year you would go maybe go put out round hay bales, or maybe put out some feed for something, or if you had to get them up, to vaccinate them, or, they really didn't need much maintenance, and they were kind of... So my grandfather grew up there, but then he became an electrician and lived in Houston for at least the last half of his life.
Oh, okay.
And he loved to go dance and see his friends. And so his cows, he would come down every 3rd weekend and check on his cows. And he would call and talk to my mom and dad. And I don't know why they told me this, but he would always, first he'd say, "So how are the cows?"
That's amazing.
And then he'd be like, "Okay, and how are you guys? And how are the kids?" It was he just loved them so much.
That's
so
beautiful.
He kept them as I think he just couldn't let go of them. But it wasn't an industry. It wasn't a means of...
No, it was just the cows was just there.
Yeah. Well, it also gave him an agriculture exemption, which let him keep that piece of land and pay awesome. Very low taxes on it. So
He's a smart man. He's a smart man. And he enjoys his cows.
Oh, he loved them so much.
So then, knowing where you started, where you grew up, how were you introduced to nursing? Was anyone else in the family a nurse? Nope. Why did you decide nursing?
So I lived in New York from 2002 to 2003.
With the family, or was
Nope, just by myself.
For real?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big move.
Kind of. So
what happened? I feel like I missed something.
Okay. So in my previous life,
yes,
I was a modern dancer.
No.
Yeah.
Modern dancer?
I know. Yes, modern dancer. So there's not, but as far as I knew, there were not a lot of pockets of communities that were like professional modern dancers. Like, New York is the place, right? Like, you could say you're a dancer to someone in Texas and they can ask you all kinds of questions. Oh, really? You know what I mean?
Okay, now I'm seeing what you say.
Okay, so, and I had spent, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks there doing like an Alvin Ailey, like, intensive one time. I just loved it.
I don't know what Alvin Ailey is.
Oh, wow, you would. It's wonderful.
What's like Alvin Ailey?
I mean, anyone who knows will just be like so ashamed that I can't explain it better. It's like an American dance company that was started by Alvin Ailey, and I don't remember the year.
Okay.
He was an African American. It doesn't matter what his sexual orientation was, but he started a dance company for dancers like him.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. They're just fantastic and gorgeous, and
this was in New York.
Okay.
So you were part of this company,
not part of the company. I just went and did like, I was in college. I'm like, I'll spend 6 weeks and go do some extra training.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. So loved it. Loved the city. Very different than here. Yeah. Austin.
And what were the years?
I went in 2002, so it was the year after 9/11.
Oh yeah, I was about to say. Jeez, it was.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of.
Did you enjoy your time out there?
I loved it so much.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. And then so you're out there, you're doing your dancing moves.
Yeah, loving it. And I guess it just kind of occurred to me that like being that close to the September 11th
situation.
That everyone was choosing to live there. Not anyway, but they were choosing to live there. And that, something like that could happen at any time.
Anywhere.
And it can, exactly, it can. But, I was like 24, and it was kind of this new concept for me, right? That we make these decisions and choose to be in places, and life is fleeting. But I thought, okay, so this could happen, or it did happen. What if I were here and that happened? What am I going to do? Like, I kind of wanted to do something, like I wanted to have something to do. And I don't know why, it just, I thought, well, I could be a nurse.
Yes.
I have no idea where that thought came from, honestly.
And then did you like immediately jump right into it?
Oh, absolutely not. No, I was there for a year. No, it was just a thought. Like, it was one of those things like, I could do that.
Yes.
And then when, I eventually it didn't take me long, a year, to get very homesick. And if I want to see the sky, I have to look directly up.
Yes.
I'm like, where's my son? Where's my mom? And I thought, even the nurses, the dancers who were in the companies that I would have loved to dance for, they still worked. I mean, they were in the studio, I don't know how many hours. They could be there 40 hours a week.
My goodness.
Dancing and teaching, and that was their family. So, but they still might have a job in a coffee shop, or they still might have a job like... Ooh.
So it was like, because it's dancing, and like unless
your whole job, your whole life.
Dancing is one of those things. If you're not doing it big, you're really grinding.
Right, or you can, you could do it probably really in a lovely way and really be in the studio, like really be a teacher and really get into,
And did you see yourself ever being that?
I didn't. But the other thing is that I really hadn't acknowledged before then how much I knew I wanted to have a family, and I just didn't see how spending that much time in a studio was gonna
it's a hard ask.
I don't know, it just, and your body
it changes, right?
It does change, exactly, and you don't have a lot of control over that.
No, you don't.
Which is sometimes fantastic, but other times you're like, hey, the knee, not a great design. You
can't do this forever.
Exactly.
At least you can't do it for a long time.
No.
So when did we start the nursing process?
When I came back from New York.
Okay, so when you came back, you were like, all right, I'm ready. What can I do?
Yeah.
And then you just jumped into nursing school.
Yeah, I mean, it took a little while. I had to do prerequisites.
The whole nine. Yeah, the way nursing school usually goes.
Yeah.
All right, so we could skip over nursing school because everyone knows nursing school. And if you're going through nursing school, I'm praying for you. Good luck. Good for you. We'll see you on the other side. So you finished nursing school, right? And you were about to become a nurse, and you become a nurse. When you come to the hospital that you're at right now, are you going there because it's the only option? Did you already know the situation, the culture? Were you going there during school? What made you go there? And was med-surg the call? Were you looking for a neuro unit? Or was this something that you just ended up being falling into?
Right. I think that I thought med-surg was the place I needed to start just to learn.
Most nurses do.
And I didn't have any experience like with healthcare or the hospital culture or setting. I mean, I think I was a very naive new nurse.
Yes.
You know, I haven't had like any loved ones or friends spend a lot of time in the hospital. I've never had to be in the hospital. You know, it was just very unfamiliar. And at that time, it seemed like there was really just St. David's or Seton. Yeah. And I had clinicals at St. David's down south where I am now, and it was my favorite clinical that I had, probably because of my teacher at that time. She was awesome. You know, it's like the first time. Yes. Absolutely. She was wonderful. It's like I remember the first unit I started my first IV on, you know, like some real fun stuff. You're like, I can do this. Look, you know, some like positive reinforcement. I had a girlfriend in one of my clinicals who was already like a tech in the emergency department.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she was just like this dynamo and so exciting. I'm like, yeah, I want to work where Kim works, you know. But I got out of school and I'd had clinicals other places, and I applied there because I had actually met the manager. That's awesome. So I had her card. I'm like, hey,
slide right on call
you.
Yes.
Right. And then where did I apply? I applied at Brackenridge, which doesn't exist anymore. Oh, okay. But I'd had clinicals there. It was like downtown. It's like Del Seton now, I think, if you met anyone who's working there. Okay. But it was kind of more like, I don't want to call it the community hospital, but like if you were unfunded, you went there and you got care. You got treated. It was like right next to a bus stop, like downtown Austin. Like you can get there, you know, like get everybody. Like, yeah. And that was a pretty exciting environment. So I got job offers both places, but one of them you started in a group, and Brackenridge, you had to start, they wanted you to get into these classes that they were giving.
Oh, okay.
And it was like 3 months away. And I had finished early. I decided to go to summer school and do my last semester of nursing school.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Then, so it's like, I didn't sit through like summer and like...
to bang this out just to wait 3 months.
Yeah, like I don't want to wait.
Yeah. Let me jump in.
Really that's kind of the only reason that
Is Brackenridge close to your home?
Sure.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. We stole you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I mean, I didn't feel bad about it. I was just excited to get a job.
Of course.
I was just I just want to do this.
Yes.
Let's do this and let's see how let's see how it goes.
Okay, so now you got your job.
Yeah, I got my job.
You become a nurse.
Yes.
Do you slide right on in? Are you already the great nurse that you are?
Absolutely not.
What was the learning curve? And then when, during that learning curve, did you decide I could be a charge nurse?
Well, okay. Oh man, big learning curve.
Okay.
I would say like my heart was always in the right place. And then if there was one thing that I did well, it was listen to people. Mostly my patients. Not meaning that I knew what they were telling me was critical. Like I still couldn't determine those things. But that like I could really connect with them, and I felt like we had a very honest interaction. So like that was maybe the one thing I could say that
you listened.
I could listen, and I could, you know, that was great for me. And I loved them.
Yes.
You know, I really did. And I think it was probably, and I started on nights, the first year.
You started on nights?
I started on nights.
Oh, you daredevil.
Which was great. Well, I mean, that's the only thing they hired me for. Like,
you had no choice.
You want a job? You can work nights. I'm like, okay, yes, I can work nights, right? And that was great too because.
Did you like it?
Oh, I loved it.
For real?
My boss wasn't there.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like all the administration, you know, like it was just nurses and patients.
Yes.
Which also made it a little more stressful because you don't have the ancillary. Oh, maybe the physical therapist will walk you or get you from here to there. Like, nah.
Yeah.
It's like
it's you, and you.
Yeah.
And you better have a PCT by you. You guys can get it done.
Oh, absolutely. And the nurses that I was working with were all very experienced. Yep. They were all fantastic. I loved them very much. And I was very much like the new nurse. They had all been there for
so you needed
6+ years.
So a couple of things about this, you listening. We are going to keep pushing forward, but I love that you say that. That is something I need to work on better. When you said especially listen to the patient, because when you're the nurse, you walk into the room and you're like, this is the plan, let's get it done. And when the patient says things like, I don't want to do that, that's not the plan, I'm not for that, you want to push the plan on because you're like, this is going to get you better the most, like the quickest, right? But who cares what is going to make that person better? It's what they want to do. It's their life, right? And you over here saying, you need to take this med, or you need to do this treatment, or you need to get up right now. And sometimes they're like, no thanks. And you have to listen. Trinae is so much better at this than I am, but I love that you said that. I love that you said that. Yes, that's a really, really good thing. And I like hearing it. But throughout your time, during night shift, while you were on the floor, while you're learning from the more experienced nurses, when did the charge nurse? When did the idea even come up?
It didn't ever.
For real?
For me, it didn't. No, I was driving to work at 6 p.m.
Yep.
And my manager calls me and says, "Oh, the charge nurse so-and-so can't be there, is sick, whatever. No one else will do it. Will you please be the charge nurse tonight?" And again, naive me, I'm like, well,
no one else.
What do I need to do? And I know very well every other nurse that I'm working with at night has years and years on me.
Okay.
And they just won't. Of course, I am also just taking this for granted that, he's talked to everybody else. But it would have been the smart thing for him to do. So I'm assuming he was telling me the truth.
Yes.
So I just agreed to it.
Okay.
So...
How'd it go? How'd that first day go?
It was fine.
Okay.
It was fine because all the nurses knew what they were doing. Like, the hardest part of that for me was making an assignment that didn't just ruin everybody's day the next day.
We're going to get
really easy to do.
We're going to talk about those assignments, but this is perfect. So you kind of get thrown into it. So let's pause and let me ask you the simplest question.
Okay.
What is a charge nurse? What is a charge nurse? So what are you guys doing?
It's such a crazy question. This is what I tell when I have to train a new charge nurse. When I get to train a new charge nurse,
yes.
I usually tell them, kind of the broad concept to start out with is that I think that we're there to make everything, to smooth out the edges, right? You want to make it easier to get patients in. You want to make it easier to get them out. You want to make it easier to transfer them to another floor if they need it. You want to make it easy for that nurse to come to you and say, I'm worried.
Yep.
There's so many functions that you can do, but really conceptually, I feel like you're really just there to
just smooth out the edges.
Exactly.
Support where support is needed most, and then let the rest happen. The reason I asked it like that is because it is hard seeing you day to day, seeing the charge nurse day to day, because you guys do a lot of different things all the time, and smoothing out the edges is a nice way to say it, but and
kind of non-specific.
No.
But you don't know what's going to happen either.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, because some days what you're doing is you're just, what's it called? Those people with the cones doing traffic.
Oh, yeah.
Who's coming in? Who's coming out?
Absolutely.
Who's coming in? Who's going out?
Oh, yeah.
And then other days you have 3 rapids, and then you have to be taking care of these super sick people or transferring them upstairs or getting someone from an ICU. What do you enjoy? What part of charge nursing comes the easiest, or you enjoy doing the most?
That's really hard for some reason.
Is it?
I think the easiest thing for me again is I feel like I communicate well with people. So that's the easy part.
When you say people, do you mean all staff, doctors, patients, or do you mean patients?
No, I mean my staff.
Okay.
That's who I see the most.
Yes.
If I get to go into a room or I need to go into a room, I really enjoy that, and I feel like I can kind of get what I need, but I feel like usually there's a time constraint.
Oh, 100%.
You know, I feel like I'm good at maybe, you know, telling what people need and trying to facilitate that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say you spend most of your time speaking to the staff, I want to know the kind of staff you like to communicate with. And not the kind of staff like, I like talking to the nurses and not the doctors. I like talking to the doctors and not the therapists.
Yeah.
Not like that. I'm saying, as a nurse, I get nervous when I'm going up to the charge all the time with a specific issue, right?
Really?
And I don't like being the needy nurse on the floor. I don't want to be the needy nurse on the floor.
Okay.
But I have to say, on days that I feel like I need the help, I don't mind being needy, right? I don't mind being needy. So I'd like to know, how do you go about helping a nurse when they're in need and they're not really saying it? Because
that's the hardest part. And those are the nurses that make me the most nervous, or the nurses that never say anything to me.
Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe even a little bit further, are giving people advice all the time.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And I happen, you know, I might know, oh, they're just out of school, or, you know, that I have some idea about their experience. And that's when I get nervous, because I feel like I'm always asking people questions. Like, I've seen what I've seen, and what I haven't seen, I haven't.
Exactly.
And even if it's been a minute, I want to bounce it off somebody. I just do. There's too much.
Yeah, there's
at
too
stake,
much, of course.
right? Or even if I know the answer and I just don't want it to be the answer, I just need someone to to be my support system too, and go, no, you're right. You do have to call that doctor. Oh no, you're right. That sounds pretty bad. Like, we're gonna go in there and fix it. No, I forgot what that.
No. This is perfect. This is perfect, because I wanted to push on that just a little bit more. When you don't know, who's the next person in line? I have a question about a situation you don't know. What do you do next?
Oh, I call somebody. I mean, I call departments. I call the house supervisor. So they're like probably tired of me. Oh yeah, I'm like, lab, radiology, medical records. I don't care. I'm like, I don't know, but I got a phone, and somebody else absolutely does know. Let me find who knows.
Exactly.
You know, or somebody said like, oh hey, you know, like Katie's amazing with Meditech. And the doctor's going, I can't discharge this person because of this error message I've never seen before. I'm like, send me a screenshot. I'm going to call Katie. Exactly. Hey, Katie, do you have a minute? Can you look at this? Like, somebody once said that you're great with Meditech. So you got a minute? And she might tell me, hey, they were wrong. Like, I'm busy. Or she might come up and look at it and work it with me. So I'm always calling other departments. Okay. Like, constantly.
And then when you are dealing with these nurses that aren't, let's say, what I'm saying, how do you deal with the confrontation? When a nurse gives advice to someone else that you know is wrong, and you have to correct that situation.
Right.
When a nurse is doing something for a patient that you know is wrong. Mm-hmm. If a doctor is putting in orders that you know is just not accurate, and you have to question the order, how do you deal with the confrontation? Because one of the reasons I picked to talk to you, I asked to talk to you, is because you seem so nice. You're such you come off so nice. So, but I also haven't seen you deal with confrontation.
I don't like confrontation.
So how do you deal with it when it does happen?
So, okay. So I guess if it's a nurse, like if I'm, listening to a nurse give like not great advice, I don't like to interrupt people, and I really don't like to put people on the defense, because I feel like you
stop learning.
Like we're not gonna get anywhere. I'm gonna step on your toes, and you're gonna think that I'm like I don't know what you're gonna think.
Yes.
Right. But they're like, hey, I heard you guys talking about this. My other concern would be. Or, have you also did you check on this? Like, this is another possibility. I would not want to assume this without these other facts. And here's some other things that you can look at. So it's not, I'm almost never going to say, stop that, stop right now. Or, I can't believe you just said that. Where do you get off? Like, no, like, it's not about me. We just want to be safe. So let's
let's fix
think
the
about
problem.
this a minute.
Yes.
You know, like take a minute and think about it. If it's something in a room, I'm not going to say that in front of a patient. I remember seeing like 2 student nurses trying to hang a secondary bag or something, and
it just wasn't. They were doing everything
horrible.
It was
so bad. It was just like, let's stop. Let's go talk about it. Because I don't want to say, you got it was so bad.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even remember. It was just terrible.
Right.
I want to strangle them.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're not going to learn anything. And they're just like, that terrible charge nurse. She's the meanest person ever. And she just thinks she knows. Like, no.
And then everything.
Let's get to the important thing.
Of
right.
course.
Doctors are a little more difficult.
A little more sensitive.
Yeah.
It seems that way. It's wild
I feel like I have to give them proof.
Exactly.
I mean, I remember, I don't know, asking for something like, oh, we can give that IV. We don't carry that IV. Like, I'm pretty sure I've given this IV. We don't carry that IV. And I literally went and got like a little vial of like something ridiculous like IV Pepsid and put it down in front of him. I mean, like maybe that was passive aggressive, but like, I don't want to argue.
Exactly.
I want to what evidence do you need? Let me give you what you need. Hopefully it's not a gigantic waste of time, or that I'm not still somehow like being bitchy without, if I can say that, without trying to be. I don't know. I can get pretty creative to try and get out of being confrontational.
That's good.
I don't.
You don't deal well with the confrontation.
No, I don't like it.
And you avoid it, which I like, because the goal is not confrontation.
No.
When it's necessary, let's get through this issue the least prickly way possible.
Well, and more than likely, we're going to have to keep working together
for
100%. The next hour, the next rest of the day, a year. I don't know.
We work 12-hour shifts together.
I'm going to need something from you. You're going to need something from me.
Yeah, let's not make an issue with each other.
If we don't have to.
If we don't have to. I like that. I like that a lot. And then so charginess, this seems like a combination of just a lot of wild things happening, and you are like the stop, like the buck stop. They come to you with the issues. You have to try to smooth the edges out here. You're trying to avoid all kinds of confrontation. But then I have to ask you this. When it comes to the patients, you're right. You do spend a lot of time as a charge nurse talking to staff most of the day. When it comes to patients, and when it is time to talk to the charge nurse, it's usually situations like, I hate my nurse.
Right.
I needed to leave yesterday. What's happening with the plan?
Right.
And you're dealing not even so much with the patient, because sometimes they're just super sick. A lot of the times you're dealing with family.
Right.
Is it the same process, the same thought process? Are you doing the same thing when you're dealing with family? Or is there a different way of treating that kind of confrontation?
You mean as opposed to nurses?
As opposed to nurses.
I think it's very different.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd still try and listen.
Of course.
I always want to know what someone's side is. Like if someone's complained about a nurse or a coworker's having an issue, I'm like, tell me what's going on with you. And then I'm going to go ask that other person. Like, hey, there seems to be an issue. Can you tell me what's going on?
Yes.
And so in that way, it's similar.
Okay.
But I feel like with, with families and patients, it's always going to be different. They're the people who are like in crisis.
Yes.
In like work is stressful, but we're at work, like it's just, it can't be the same emotional experience. I mean,
they're dealing with death. They're dealing with like loss of health.
Horrible, like fear, fear out, like they're not sensical. This is like maybe one of the worst times in their lives. 100%. And they're like, we're judging them on, because how well they communicate.
Exactly.
Like, well, great. We might not be great communicators in general, and let's just
that's not the priority right now.
No. So I feel like a whole lot of that is just a lot more listening and agreeing. I don't want to say placating, but you really, you're just trying to like soothe.
Yeah.
Like let's soothe, and then let's see if we have something we can actually affect.
And and you're right, because a lot of the times, and I don't want to say all the time, but sometimes it's legit. And a lot of the times when it comes to like a patient saying, I don't want this nurse to take care of me, it's like temperaments, it's like personalities.
Oh, yeah.
It's not because the nurse is doing anything wrong. And yeah, sometimes that the patient can be a difficult patient, a hard to please patient, but at the end of the day, we're going to deal with that with like softness, with pillows, we're going to say, all right, we can switch to nurse. No one's getting in trouble.
Right.
No big deal. Let's get you a fresh start here. So when you say placating, kind of, I see what you're saying. We're not over here trying to wrestle with the patient. We're here to take care of the patient.
Right.
And if we can fix this easily, we're just giving them what they want, if it doesn't interrupt with the actual plan of care, then let's talk about it.
Oh,
Why
for
not?
sure.
Why
Oh,
not?
especially if it's going to save some time.
Of
I mean,
course.
they don't want to necessarily deal with it either. Like, they've got other things to worry about.
They got a million things that are more important right now.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that.
Finishing up with the duties of a charge nurse, I want to talk about audits, and I want to talk about your relationship with management. Okay. So finishing up with your job alone without talking about the higher ups, audits.
Yeah.
Audits.
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I don't like them. I don't know anyone who likes them.
So the process, is it like, are you just going through the documentation of the nurses for the specific audit the hospital is doing that week?
Maybe.
Okay. Do you have any say in what you audit, when you audit, who you audit, or is it just random all the time?
I might, I might get to say like, oh, hey, like, let's split this up. There are two of us that need to do this. I will see these nurses and you see those nurses.
Oh, okay.
Like, kind of organizing it. Like, how are we actually going to get it accomplished? But I think usually, no, it's like, we need 60 of these by, the first quarter. We need 60 of these by the second quarter. And it's pretty regimented.
How frequently are you doing audits? Is this an everyday?
Every day.
For real?
Yeah.
But
they're different ones. Like, and the ones that I probably agree with the most, like, are, I would say, in the range of safety audits. Like, I'm supposed to look at all the central lines and all the Foley's, like things that can cause infection. Like,
that's part of the job.
Yep. And like, I can get on board with that. Like, and
what are the
almost
audits?
every day,
Yeah,
there's something I'm like, so this dressing
doesn't look
really
too hot.
needs to be changed.
Yes.
Have you been able to assess your dressing yet? Do you think you'll have time to change that today? Can you please tell me if you're not going to get it done by 5? I will go do it for you.
Beautiful.
Like those kinds of things. So like safety things, absolutely. I'm all about safety.
The
The
audits,
other things.
There you go.
Yeah. So audits like bedside shift report audits. It's a page, I don't know, 25, 30 boxes that you can check. And it seems like the way that it's set up is that you are assessing if someone can follow a script in like the most negative way that I can say that, right? Like micromanaging, can you follow a script?
Makes sense.
And it just goes against everything that I feel like nursing should be in one sense, that we're trying to have an authentic relationship. And if you sound like you just dialed AT&T and you're getting the same
robocall.
Yeah. Like do you trust me? Like, do you think that I'm telling you the truth or I'm just reading what's on the back of a card?
Exactly.
So that just drives me crazy. The thing that, unfortunately, I think part of the auditing is that, like, it's kind of like taking medicine for something you could have prevented ahead of time.
Makes sense.
Right?
Makes
like,
sense.
if we had done, like, this fabulous job of training and educating you and making sure that you had everything you need, like, when we let you go and you're on your own.
Audits wouldn't be necessary.
It wouldn't be necessary because we know that you've been trained. But I mean, time is an issue in the hospital in general, right? Like, to get through anything, including training. Like, you're going to go sit down with your preceptor and an educator. I don't know who else, because I'm not really involved in all of that right now. But there should, there are conversations, and you're supposed to have kind of like an idea of how it's going.
Of course.
But I think if we had not, if we just had a very solid idea of how well that person was trained, that we wouldn't be worried about audits. That I think audit is there to like, hey, buffer. You guys know what you're supposed to be doing and you're not.
Exactly.
So now we're going to do a spot check, But as far as like, meeting every single, box on that list,
you feel
I don't think that's
silly.
terribly important.
And it's not necessary to be hitting every single one of those 30, 25 check boxes for each report. So yes.
And if you do it well, like you get good reports.
Yes.
And you get bad reports, right? And when you get a good report, like you have what you need. And there's no reason to go through all the other things that are not relevant to this patient.
Which makes
when
sense.
They're not. And who knows that better?
Than the nurses.
Exactly.
Okay.
I
like
that I do also, like I've been in audits, which I really loved because I'm like, you know, like I had this really grumpy nurse. Like he's so grumpy and I adore him as a person. He's wonderful. Yeah. But when I would audit him, he's so kind when he interacts with his patients originally. Like every single time he's like, you know, am I saying your name the right way? Like, is that what you would like me to call you? Like just very real, just basic personal. And I wouldn't have necessarily assumed that. From my grumpy guy, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, do people like, are they wanting another nurse all the time, you know? And then when I see that, I wouldn't have had a reason if I hadn't been asked to go do a certain audit. So you get other things out of it. Okay. That I appreciate, you know, like silver lining kind of things.
Of course. Well, that's beautiful. I mean, it sucks. I mean, I don't see auditing or, you know, having to do all these audits as the greatest thing. But you're right. When it's safety, and it needs to be done. Your relationship with management. Do you see yourself becoming, joining management? No. I mean, that was a quick no.
I mean, I've said this to like the last, I don't know, a few people have asked me. I don't see happy managers. They don't look happy.
They don't. Not a lot of them.
Not a lot of them. I mean, some people, I mean, there are really great people that do all kinds of jobs.
Of course.
And I've had managers that I was just, man, you're a rock star. Yes. Like, I'm impressed in so many ways. When you talk about your job, though, you're looking miserable, yes. Like rocking a hard place, like misery, like eating your life. So that is really unappealing to me.
What is your relationship as a charge nurse with management?
It varies. Okay. I mean, like, it's really, I feel like they need to give me, I guess, sometimes some direction or definitely feedback. Like, I definitely want someone to be there to give me feedback.
Do they audit you?
They're supposed to. Yes, okay. Of course they audit me. Of course. Yeah, okay. You know, like I get sent to classes and, you know, get checked off on things. And,
because I feel like I see charge nurses on the floor 24/7, right?
Right.
And management, I don't want to say they're never on the floor, but when they are on the floor, it's really just for the big meetings. Often. Right. Do you have to do any of the meetings that the management has to do? Or are they no meetings for you and you're basically on the floor?
I would very rarely go to a meeting. Like they have a big safety meeting in the morning with the head of all the departments and the manager is supposed to be there. And I have in the past filled in for my manager if they can't go.
But outside of that, you're on the floor.
Yeah, pretty much.
Doing what charge nurses do.
No.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
And thank you so much again. Anything about charge nursing that I haven't asked that you do, that you like doing, that you don't like doing, that you'd like to mention before we start talking about Nina, the person outside of nursing?
Oh, probably. Like anything I want to mention. No.
I feel like we covered quite a bit.
I mean, we really did.
And and thank you. Because listen, I have to say, sometimes I feel like the charge nurses are doing a lot. And other times I'm like, what
are they doing? Absolutely. And I never, ever, ever want to look like the person. Isn't that funny? Looks like. Yeah. Because I could be very busy and people, you know.
Don't see you working.
Right.
Yes.
And, you know, I try never to like push anyone off or just hand something right back to somebody, because like if they asked me, I feel like they have a really good reason, you know. And I feel like it's really important. Like I've had some new nurses and that have asked probably, you know, a question every 5 minutes, and some questions that probably any other nurse on the floor
could answer.
Yeah. But I don't ever want to make them feel bad about asking me a question, because there's going to be that. Like,
do you ever do that though? Like, I feel like that's something I like when nurses do. It's like you're asking me, but I don't know. Like Trene's really good at this.
Oh, absolutely. No. I love it. And you know, like I said, like I call units all the time. I'll call other people. Like I love it when nurses realize that they're not stuck in this little box. Like, I'm not the only person. Like, if they're like, hey, do you know, like, what that acronym is for this lab? I'm like, I don't. I could call the lab, or have I given you the lab number? You can call the lab, you know? And those are the nurses that are like, especially the ones that I have worked with for a long time, they, you know, way smarter than me. They know all their stuff. Like, they're not communicating with me. They're taking care of all of their stuff. And they're calling all the departments, you know? Like, they'll come over and go, hey, so you know, like, so-and-so's blood pressure's in the 60s. I'm like, thank you, because, you know, I want to know that. And that, like, you know, well, I'll be ready to pop up, and you're, like, keeping me in the loop. But I'm not having to go in.
And deal with the details, the calls, the messages, the family, and all
which
that
seems,
good stuff.
you know... It's overwhelming. And sometimes you just have too many things going on, and you're like, hey, there is this, I've got 2 fires. Like, you gotta help me with 1 fire. Like, please, absolutely, you know. But that, you know, just that one time the nurse doesn't ask you something irrelevant. I mean, not to them, but, you know, they ask you, oh, you know, should I pull that perm calf out? I thought it was a pick. And you're like, thank you so much for asking me. Like, yes. No, I'm glad you didn't put heparin in that and pull that out. Thank you for coming to talk to me ahead of time. Like, that's why I sat through your other 40 questions today, is so that we could get to this one. So we caught this one.
And you're right, because if you didn't, they would have stopped asking. And then shit would have happened.
And I hear about it, you know, when nurses, their coworkers, if they're just like, oh, she made me feel stupid.
Yeah, you don't want to.
You know, or they just, you know, they just ignored me, or, you know, whatever it is that we do to each other. Like, trying not to.
Wonderful. Nina, I can't thank you enough for doing this. But look, before I let you go, before we end this, I have this section where it's titled "Nurses Are Human Too." I talk about nursing because that's what I do. That's what I love to do. That's my job. That's what I get paid to do. But you're a human being, and you were a human being before you were a nurse. So I want to talk about Nina, the human being. You came in here today glowing. I
know, and I'm like super. Am I like super flushed now when I get nervous? I'm like a very nice shade of red.
But I do want to talk about you as a human being. Being a nurse, you just said you have you got the kids, you got the dog. You told me you went on a walk with the dog today. Nursing is very stressful. I mean, you deal with a lot of stress. Specifically as a charge nurse, all you deal with the stuff that nurses can't figure out, which is usually the worst of the situations. So that a lot of that stuff gets just thrown on you. It's heavy. Patients that are really sick, patients that are dying, all of these things. How do you, outside of work, deal with the pressure, the sadness, the frustration? How do you prevent burnout?
I think I joke about this, but I think that it's true, and it will probably be a problem later. But I think I have self-induced amnesia. I know, that's like the worst answer.
No, it's not.
Like, when I leave, I make myself forget. And there are some things that you can't, right?
Of
the
course.
things that I forget, like the beeping. Like, I forget, you know, all the questions that didn't, you know, were not life and death.
Yes.
You know, the things that I feel like I remember or still kind of carry with me when I leave. Well, one, I feel tired. Like, that's the thing that I'm like, well, I don't really know how to make myself feel less tired. Like, I try and sleep and eat and do the things I need to do. But I don't think I'm going to get rid of that consequence just of like the long days, you know, and the sensory overload is exhausting, but that's a physical thing. I feel like the things that I carry with me that are like emotionally heavy, I mean, most of them didn't have to do with me.
Oh, of course.
You know, again, it's like someone else's experience. And
so when you're dealing with it, are you like, for me, I'm so lucky. I'm with someone that's in the field. So a lot of how I get rid of that kind of heaviness, that sadness, that frustration, like bouncing or just venting about shit to someone who understands and is willing to just kind of just take it,
right,
is the nicest thing. I love, like, if I have a horrible day and I could come home and just unload, and like not in a bad way, but like just have someone listen and agree and tell me where I'm overstepping, or just allow me to take some of that off.
Yeah.
At least explain myself.
Yeah.
At least speak those feelings out of me, right? That's something that I like to do. I want to know, with all of the stress that you carry, what do you do to not feel like this is the worst job ever? It's not an easy job.
No.
So how do you keep doing it? And you're so happy at work.
I know. I don't know why. It's me time. No. I think I keep myself really busy.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I can be a super slug, you know, and check out, you know, I'm like, I can binge TV, I can take naps, I can do all those things and not think about it. But I think I just try and stay really busy, you know, I got little kids. They're not so little. And so I'm like, hey, I got to clean their room. I got to plan a meal. I love to cook.
Yes.
And that's one thing.
Good for you.
That I feel like, I mean, it can take a lot of time and you have to plan.
Yes.
But I can do it and put energy into it, and I don't feel guilty because I'm going to feed my family with it too, right?
Of course. It's a win-win.
Exactly.
It's a nice thing to like to do.
Yeah. So I like to get involved in things.
Oh, good.
You know?
Good. How do the kids... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, please finish.
Oh, I don't even know what I was going to say.
How do the kids feel about a mom nurse?
They don't.
Are they old enough to understand?
I don't think they have a concept. Not really.
Oh, okay.
So my kids are 7. No, she just turned 8 and 9.
There you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't talk about work a lot with them. I might just say, hey, I've been at work for 14 hours, so you're going to have to ask your dad for that.
Please and thank
kind
you.
of thing. You know, I think their concept is, you know, mom takes care of sick people,
Simple.
which it is very simple.
Yeah.
And so they don't know that I usually talk to nurses more than I talk to patients. Okay. You know, it's a very rudimentary thing.
For the little ones listening out there, charge nurses help the people that are caring for the sick people.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's really, you guys do a lot of that.
Yeah.
How about the hubby? How does he feel about a nurse wife?
It's really hard for him.
For real?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, I say that he's very supportive, and he's the person that I come and go, blah, 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 you know.
It's nice to have that person.
Absolutely. And he, you know, he gets it. I've been talking about it enough that he's you know, he has some concept of oh yeah, okay, that sounds like thanks. Or you don't need to say anything. I'm just gonna talk and talk and talk, and you can bring me a glass of wine, and it's all good.
I love that.
But no, it's really hard on him, and more so since, because we were together before we had kids. That's a funny statement. But you know, our relationship before we had kids, I was a nurse, and so I've always had I have a lot of love to give, right?
Yes.
I'm very maternal, and nursing was super easy for me. I had an outlet for I can go, you know,
do all the care.
I can be care. Yeah, exactly. It's a privilege. I love this, but I still had enough left over. I was hi, honey. You know, I want to love on you and care for you and do all this very nurturing, sweet stuff.
Yes.
And then we had kids, and then it's oh my gosh. Everybody
needs
for me feels I feel like everybody needs something from me.
Oh, 1,000%.
And very sadly and totally honestly, he's the first person I can say no to.
Oh, he's the first chopping block. He's the first on the chopping block.
Because my kids will ask me, I don't say no. Maybe I should. My patients or my nurses ask me, and I could say no, and maybe again I should say no, but I don't say no. And then he asked me for something, and I'm you get it, dude. No, I'm sorry, because you're the only person who gets it, you know?
Oh my God.
And it's really unfair, and I'm sure we need some therapy to help, you know, because I feel completely justified in saying I'm tapped out, and you're here for me too, and you're grown up and you should also take care of yourself.
You're not
and he's not asking me to take care of him.
Of course.
He's asking me to be emotionally present and available and all the things that a good partner should be, right?
Man, that's so self-reflective. That's the most honest, truest Good
well,
for
we've
you.
talked about
Good
it a
for
lot.
you.
I mean, it's sad though because it
It
is something
is,
it
but it's
reoccurs.
honest.
It is honest, but then we also would like to get to the.
And
So what do we do about
exactly.
this?
What's the solution?
Yeah, exactly.
solution?
Because you can acknowledge it all day. You're like, still saying no, honey. You know, like.
Oh, listen. Good for you. Good for you for knowing it. The first step is acknowledging the problem.
There you go.
I love
Thank
that.
you.
I love that. Okay. So this just fire through a few of these. So you said you have a dog. Is dogs pets of choice, or is that a family decision?
Oh no, that's like my husband was like, I'm gonna get a dog whether anyone else wants a dog or not.
He needs the love.
He does. I am not kidding you. It is not a not a small thing.
Okay.
He needs the dog. The kids love the dog.
Oh, good.
I walk the dog.
There you go. I mean, you got to do some more caring.
She needs stuff. I'm like, why do you need stuff? I'm terrible.
You mentioned wine. A drink of choice? Is it wine?
I drink anything except for rum.
Anything except for rum.
Unless I'm in
rum.
Costa Rica, and then I'll drink rum.
Oh, that's perfect. I was gonna ask.
Right.
Last vacation you've been on?
Well, no, I did go to. We went to South Padre in August.
Oh yeah, you were
but
just
it's like my
mentioning that.
family.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's like a big family thing that we do every year.
That's really nice.
All my
Did you
brothers
enjoy
and
it?
my
How long
mom.
ago is this?
Yeah, August. So like 3 months.
Okay, so you
It was just like 5 days on a familiar little beach, hang out in the water.
beautiful.
Yeah.
TV show or movies?
Let's see. I'm watching the Great British Baking Show.
Oh, which is simple TV.
So fun. I'm trying to watch the entire series of Seinfeld right now, and I'm afraid I'm going to turn into George Costanza. If you've seen any of this, I'm like, oh wow, okay, I'm going to morph into this really obnoxious man. But that's all like fluff stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that's not like if you get the opportunity to watch C. Have you watched any C? It's pretty interesting.
I don't even know what that is.
It's an HBO show.
Okay.
And
HBO does everything right. I love the Wire, The Sopranos, Game of
see,
Thrones.
on
That's
my
all
list.
HBO.
It's about the future where a virus or pandemic has wiped out like almost all of the human population except for like 5 million people, and everyone who's left is blind. Those are the survivors.
Oh shit!
And so it's like
yeah. Wow, they can't see.
They can't see.
Like
And
for
then-
real, like it's legit. No one can see.
and they're having like epic battles.
Oh,
with
that's
swords.
insane.
It's Jason Momoa, if you know
Oh,
who that is.
Aquaman, yes.
Yeah. So it's an interesting concept. They just, they did some really cool things. And of course, so now,
That sounds badass.
some children have been born with vision. So
oh,
things are, I don't know if things are getting
interesting.
real. It is interesting.
This is interesting.
So, it's
Wait,
it's
do
got
these
some-
blind people know that the children can see? How
some
would
of
blind
them.
people?
Oh yeah, no, they're like hunted as witches.
Oh my god. Okay. Okay. No, I need to see this
I know.
stuff.
That
No, I
was a
need to
little.
see the show.
That one's a little more meaty, certainly,
Okay.
than the baking show.
And then just to finish up, I think that I knew you paid attention when you were asking me questions about my books. And I love my books. So
Yeah,
I love my books. So if anyone likes a book and talks to me about books, I get a little tingly. I get excited, right? So, any recent books that you've been knee deep in? Okay, let me ask this because do you have a favorite book or a favorite author?
I don't have a favorite author. I feel like I have in my life, maybe, and then kind of gone back and read stuff and been like, well, that's not that interesting. Or, well, I could have stopped it too. Like maybe my favorite book that I remember kind of just feeling really satisfied after reading was Anna Karenina.
Oh shit, yeah. That's a twister.
Oh man.
That's a twister.
Just like things. I just like things that are, in my opinion, written beautifully.
Yes.
Like I'm not like the story. I'm kind of cynical. I feel like I'm like, is there anything new? There's nothing new. It's all been done. It's all been said. It's all been like whatever,
Exactly.
right? But you can say it in a different way.
Listen, I've never read it, but I've only audiobook pieces of it. It's a huge book, and I have to say, it's one of the most beautiful love stories. They make love seem so beautiful. Like, you read that book and you're like, I want to feel this way. It's truly like a work of art. It's beautiful, beautiful.
It's so fun to read.
Nina, I really do appreciate this. Thank you so much. And hopefully this pushes me to continue to do it. It's been a little bit. I think
it's really great. I wanna go listen to your other.
Oh yeah, just don't go too far back. It took a while for me to get decent at it, but I really do appreciate this. I really, really do. Thank you so much.
It was so fun. I appreciate it too.